Cricket in India is like a religion. One such woman, she's been called the Lady Sachin Tendulkar. But let me tell you, she is the Mithali Raj. You have had a profound career. How do you see the change?
The Indian team now gets to play games on a very frequent level. I remember that was the only series the entire year we had, and post that for 2 years there was absolutely no international series. We were struggling to have basic facility for an athlete. It was like more of sharing. We would share our kit bags, and there were times when we'd exchange bats when we were crossing.
Really?
Yes. The biggest change was that we coming under BCCI, that has helped the sport. Our former Secretary BCCI Jayshah sir, he's brought in a lot of changes in women's cricket.
Especially the pay equality.
The pay equality, that is a huge thing. I'm very keen to get into administration. And
for you, from Bharatnatyam to being that member of Team Bharat.
First time I saw cricket being played in the ground was where my brother was going to the academy. I just wanted to follow my brother.
Normally in India, in a family, they say that a girl will grow up, will study, and then will get married.
Every member of my family have made sure that they had some role to play in bringing me up. My brother was like secondary. My mother taught him how to cook. So for me, he was like mother in the absence of my mother. My granny, she wasn't all the time taught my parents saying that you're torturing your girl, sending her out in the sun throughout the day. She's playing with the boys, wearing those pants and shirts.
Right. Growing up was your role model.
I think for a woman to take up sport in 90s and make it big is very difficult in our society. If you would have asked me, I only knew 2 women athletes, that's PT Usha and Malleshwari. I mean, the rest of them are all men. If we don't get a sponsor, we don't get to play an international series, whether at home or abroad. And then we have to be happy playing the domestic games. But what if you don't get to play an international for 2 years? How would you motivate yourself to constantly just play domestic cricket and be happy with it? I think there was no pay at all. But yes, the food and everything was looked after.
That's right.
But yes, there was no payment. There was no match fees.
But how was it sharing the problems or about the pressure of getting married and leaving cricket?
I remember a close friend of mine, she said I just have 2 years. If I make it to India, my parents would push the age of me getting married, but they gave me 2 years. So whatever I have to make of my career in cricket is this 2 years. You either make it to Indian team or you quit.
Has it ever been like you or anyone would have been in such a position that you couldn't have been 100% fit and still were asked to play?
I think yes.
When you have a male support staff, male coach, when the women cricketers go through periods or have some other problems, is it easy to communicate? What is it with the ace players and the coaches? There was something also, an incident which happened with you in 2018. How do you see the talent right now? If you could name a few promising cricketers.
I'm quite impressed with one fast bowler youngster. She's in the under-19 Indian team.
Cricket in India is like a religion. We saw a significant rise in cricket due to a lot of achievements and a lot of players. The 1983 World Cup changed it in our country. Also, the 2007 T20 World Cup, when it was being played for the first time and later on gave birth and rise to IPL. Similarly, if we talk about the players, we talk about Sunil Gavaskar, Sachin Tendulkar. But one such woman today, I'm very privileged to have along with me, who is said to be the face of women's cricket in India. She made her debut at the age of 16. She scored on her very first one-day international. She has over 10,000 runs, 7,000 in one-day international, which is still a record. She is the only captain to lead the team to the finals of 2 one-day World Cups in 2005 and 17, be it male or female, and a lot more. We can go on talking about it. She got the Padma Shri in 2015 and Khel Ratna in 2021. She's been called the Lady Sachin Tendulkar, but let me tell you, she is the Mithali Raj. I am very privileged and honored to have her along with me here. Mithali Raj, Thank you so much for your time and welcome.
Thank you.
You are in Rajkot. Uh, India and Ireland are playing. The way women cricket is changing right now.
Yep.
As we are talking, we just saw that the women in blue made the highest total in
Yes.
in the one days. How do you see the change? Because you have had a profound career, the longest career, 22 and more years. You've
Yep.
dedicated to the nation, to the sport. Tell us something about it. How has it changed?
I think now that I'm into broadcasting, I do commentary
Yes,
post my retirement.
that's right.
So I was having a stint with the Irish player Isabel. Both of us played that debut game that you were talking about, my 100 on the first game in
1999.
1999. It
Yes,
was against Ireland.
Ireland in
So
Milton Keynes.
I remember that game, and even she remembers that we were playing not in a stadium, but it was like a green ground, a small ground on the outskirts of a county. And today, Rajkot has been hosting India versus Ireland, the first bilateral series among between Ireland and India in India.
In India.
So it's the first time Ireland has come to India for a bilateral series. We've played them on you know uh, different other venues like in England, but this is the first.
True.
And that time we scored about 200 plus, and now the Indian team has scored 300 plus with relatively new faces in the side. And I think it's come a long way, I would say, where the Indian team now gets to play games on a very frequent level. Like I remember, like that was the only series the entire year we had, and post that for 2 years there was absolutely no international series. And the next, we had to play in 2002. There was a 2000 World Cup as well. So those years, the challenge was, of course, the perception about people,
Right.
that cricket is only for men. They have pretty much seen only men play in the streets and on television, not much of women taking up the sport. Despite we having a national side, the the knowledge of women playing cricket in India was very, very minimum, and facilities was a big thing. We, despite playing for India, we were struggling to have basic facility for a athlete.
Really?
Yes, there were times when we would train on a cement wicket on matting, and then go play an international just a week before we would get a turf wicket, and then we get into a tournament.
Okay.
And practice games were never part of the scheduling. It is
Right.
direct into international game. So a lot of challenges, but the current players, of course, enjoy the perks of being contracted players, and getting all the facilities. Like if you're injured, you still get access to the best of physios and trainers. They look after your rehab, then they get you back into the game. And the number of international games they play in a year, I think a lot of credit in those years definitely goes to those cricketers who've kept the game going despite all these challenges.
Right.
But the biggest change was that we coming under BCCI, that has helped the sport greatly, I would say, because having that BCCI's shadow of looking after financially, giving us grounds to play.
Right.
I mean, I've played internationals in some, in not so great grounds.
Okay.
But now internationals happen in international stadium.
Right.
So for a young kid, like say for example Pratika Rawal playing her international series, a debut series in a stadium, has a very different look to it than an international being played in elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
And the way people turned up to the games also was very heartening to see, because earlier when we used to play in smaller cities, people would come only for curiosity to see if, okay, women are playing the sport, let's see how they play.
Right.
But now they actually come to watch the standard of women's cricket.
Okay.
And also the way the matches are being televised
Right.
regularly. So that helps to spread the profile of the sport, and also the profile of the players.
That's right. I mean, I've spoken to, as we are talking about the past and the present, I've also spoken to few cricketers when they
Mhm.
say that they back 3 decades back or something, they used to play on those metting wickets,
Yes.
the half metting wickets, and that's how they have learned. For you,
Mm.
while you were growing up, you were surrounded by the boys, and
Yeah.
you were training amongst them. How was it like? Of course, your coach was your backbone, if I must say, from Bharatnatyam to
Mhm.
being the member of Team Bharat. So, how was it difficult? Because how was your family supporting you?
The first time I was introduced to the sport, like the first time I saw cricket being played in the ground, was when my brother was going to the academy,
Right.
and there was not a single girl in the academy. But like every young sibling, you want to do exactly what your older brother or older sister is doing. So you also want to get into that lane. I just wanted to follow my brother, but my brother's coach actually identified the potential in me, but he said this academy doesn't enroll girls, so you have to take your daughter elsewhere to teach her the sport. But he also added that she has more potential than your son, so you
Okay.
invest in your daughter.
Right.
She might end up playing for India, but I can't really guarantee that your son will play for India.
Right.
Then I got enrolled into the academy in my own school. And
Okay.
I'll tell you that being from the same school, I didn't know my school team had a girls' team.
Oh, really?
That was, that was the state of women's cricket. Like,
Okay. Not much talked about.
yeah, it wasn't. And the coach then, Sampath Kumar, he was training the girls during the week, and the boys would come weekend because the school was closed. It was an exclusive girls' school, so the principal wasn't very entertaining to have boys also practice in the academy. So I started that way, but a month into training, he said, she has the caliber to play higher level. So he put me straight into senior boys camp, like, in the sense like I would train a lot with the boys. Um, what helped me a lot during that period is to play a lot of matches.
Okay.
And like six-a-side, these tennis ball games
Right.
that the corporates play.
Yeah.
And he would try and feed me into every boys team, like say there were club matches happening.
Okay.
So I would be the only girl in the member of 15 squad,
Really?
playing the game.
Okay.
So for the longest time, my interaction was more with the boys and how they think, how competitive they are on the field. They don't look at you, ladki hai to let's bowl slow. They were at me the way they would bowl to any of the team members. I did get hit here and there, and sometimes I would have a doubt whether I'm good enough. But I think that has hardened me a lot. And I think that has set a very strong foundation as an athlete for me to not take anything for granted, but at the same time work my way up. Like I'm sure now a lot of girls practice with the boys. It's a very common thing now that the boys come and bowl to them. Um, but then back, even times when it was raining, and we would think like, okay, cricket is an outdoor sport, so there's no training, and indoor facility was not much in the 90s. It came later. So if it's raining, there's no cricket happening. But my coach was he was someone who would have a very unconventional training methods, like the corridor of the school. He would call me, and because my brother would come along, I was just very young. Both my parents were working, so they would not be at home. So he would accompany me for training sessions when they are not around. And one of those times where he called me up, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just at home." He said, "Get your brother along. We have a training session." But I said, "It's raining." He said, "Doesn't matter." So it was just me, my brother, and my coach. And he had few those concrete balls. Those days that was quite popular.
That's right.
And he told me to bat in the corridor and play a drive which shouldn't be touching the walls. So in a sense, like he was trying to tell me that play a perfect straight drive.
Okay.
The corridor was it's like it's like a channel.
Yeah, it's just a channel.
So unless and until you get all your alignment right, you cannot play a straight drive with the ball where it doesn't touch the corridor. So and then again he made me do fielding session. Of course, it was not like raining heavily. It was just a drizzle. So I told him, I said, I can't side the ball. He was giving me high catches. So he said, find a way to take catches, because if you're playing in England and there are showers in England conditions, I'm sure people are aware, there's this on and off shower. So he said, if you're playing for India and you're supposed to take a catch, you're not going to give an excuse that you couldn't side the ball. So this is a way of training. And it was just 2 years into training. I mean, I didn't even aim of like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to ever play for India, but he was training me in a way, pushing my limits at that age. So later, when I started playing for India and all those trials that come playing at the elite level, I was able to sort of adapt very quickly because of the training that I was put through in my formative years.
Okay. How difficult was it back home? Because while we are talking about those initial years,
Yeah.
normally in India, in a family, they say that a girl will grow up, will study, and then will get married.
Yeah.
And the skin should not be exposed to the sun. Normally, that's what the mindset is. How was it back in your family then? What kind of encouragement that you got?
For me, it was just my parents who were very supportive and pushed me at times when I required the motivation to do it. My extended family wasn't very welcoming of the idea that, okay, a girl from the family is got into sports, because all my cousins are into IT. There are engineers, couple of them are doctors, but none of them are sports people. I'm that one odd person out in the family.
Right.
And from south, we were a joint family. So I had my uncles, I had my cousin and aunts, my grandparents, especially my granny. She wasn't she would say all the time, taunt my parents, saying that you're torturing your girl, sending her out in the sun throughout the day. She's playing with the boys, wearing those pants and shirts. And I have a couple of stitches on my face when I went for a tournament and got hit by the ball. So I came back with a little swollen lip, or So she was not very encouraging. There was always that undercurrents in the family that she's taken a very unconventional path. And of course, I wasn't told because I was very young. I didn't understand all these aspects, but I was pretty much protected by my parents. I would miss a lot of family gatherings, functions, birthday parties, school excursions. I think that was maybe they say that you have to sort of forego certain things to achieve. And it's just not me. I think my parents have also invested. My mother had to she was a career woman. She was working, but she had to let go her work and turn into a housewife to see that, whenever I'm home, my food is looked after. I get all the comfort that I can at home. The recovery part is important. And my father, who had to let go his promotion because that means we had to shift base from Hyderabad. And
he was serving in the Air Force.
He was in Air Force. Then when we moved to Hyderabad, he got into bank. Yeah. So then he had to let go his promotion because we didn't want it to sort of move from Hyderabad. We've set the academy, the coach, everything was running. And so, yeah, these are sacrifices they have done. And for the longest time, people thought I'm the only child because the amount of energy and time invested on me by my parents. So my brother was like secondary. So, but then he also had his own role to play when in their absence. My mother taught him how to cook, not me. Usually it is the girl who's been taught how to cook in a kitchen and prepare food. But she taught my brother to cook and serve me hot meal when she's not around. So he was like, for me, sort of a mother in the absence of my mother. So that's I'm sure people have probably would have seen the movie. He was depicted differently, but in
It wasn't
reality,
like that?
it wasn't like that.
Oh, okay.
He did play a very supportive role as an older brother. As I said, like whenever my dad is not able to accompany me, he's there to take me to training and get me back. So I was always monitored. I was never left alone on my own. So every member of my family have made sure that they had some role to play in bringing me up.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's the support from the family which you got.
I think it would have been difficult for
Right.
a girl in our country to take up a sport and to play to that level, because if you don't have a support of your family in whether it's your parents or your partner or or uncle or aunt, I think for a woman to take up sport in 90s and make it big without when there's no money and no recognition
Yeah.
is very difficult in our society. Now, yes, things have changed. There is money in sports. There are role models in every field. But those days, when if you would have asked me, I only knew two women athletes. That's PT Usha and Maleshwari. I mean, the rest of them were all men.
All men.
But today, you have equal number of women athletes who are role
True.
models for young children.
Growing
Yeah.
up, you who used to be like, who used to see upon as a cricketer that you wanted to be like? Because at that point of time, as you just said, that there were not much of women cricketers. There would have been, but not much. Who were you like idolizing, like you wanted to be like? Who was your role model?
For me, because I started as an all-rounder, so my coach would show me a lot of videos of Kapil Dev because he
Okay.
was an all-rounder, he was a batter, I was bowler.
Yeah.
But then when I pretty much turned into a full-time batter, so I would look up to Sachin, and he was my role model. I've not actually seen Diana Edulji or Shanta or Sandhya Agarwal on television.
Because
So
it was not broadcasted.
yeah, it was not broadcasted, and I wouldn't even know how they looked until I played senior level. Then I realized, okay, they are the Indian players, and I would be awestruck. But the fact that I've never seen them in action, so hence, I would say it's just unlucky that I couldn't see them in action. So you know, I couldn't have them as a role model.
Yeah.
But when I listened to their stories, their trials, and how difficult it was for them, because they were maybe a decade older, like in the 80s and 70s,
Right.
where it was even more difficult.
Even more difficult. Yes.
You have to fight your family and you have to spend from your own pocket. Things were very, very difficult. So that has definitely is inspired me. Yeah.
True. Even was it the same for you as well when you used to tour, like to England and to other foreign countries? When you see the recognition of men's cricket at that point of time, the national team and the women's national team at airports or at hotels or other places, was it like there was not much limelight given? Limelight as in not facilities or something given. What was it like then?
We've I think our paths would never cross, in the sense, like, because obviously they were in a very different league, and we would travel. If it was international, with great difficulty would travel, but that would be like one series in a year. If you get a good sponsor, then you travel abroad for an international series. But if you don't, you should be happy hosting them in at home, and the clothing would be a problem, because if you don't get a sponsorer, usually the state associations, with whatever little funds they have, they would pull together for their players, and then we would have some clothing. So if we don't get a sponsor, we don't get to play an international series, whether at home or abroad, and then we have to be happy playing the domestic games. So motivation was a big thing back then. Playing for India is good, but what if you don't get to play an international for 2 years? And how would you motivate yourself to constantly just play domestic cricket and be happy with it? So I feel that that could also had been a challenge back then, and it was not a professional career option, in the sense there is no money out of the sport. You're playing the sport only for the joy of it, and the pride of playing for India. But other than that, you don't get anything out of the sport. So a lot of very talented players would leave it in search of a better job, which can assist them to help them financially for a living, because Indian families would ultimately say, like, what are you getting out of it? Are you able to live playing sport?
Right.
Back then it wasn't like
This
that.
is pre BCCI.
Yeah, this is
Long back,
yeah,
pre-BCCI.
before BCCI happened.
Happened.
They would go, and girls would get into another job, get into the family way, get married. But since BCCI took over, we started to, at least they started giving us match fees, We started to travel better. Our lodging was good.
The
So
food.
slowly things started to improve.
Yeah.
So maybe the few lucky ones who were around that time
Right.
were able to extend our career.
Okay.
And now I think it is a full time thing with the Women's Premier League,
Okay.
with a lot of money spinning in. I think the girls are strong enough to take a decision to continue playing beyond, mid 30s, I would say. I played, almost like late 30s, I retired.
Retired. Yes.
And in today's time with the contract with the WPL, everyone thinks that they can still have few more years
True.
before they can take that big decision, and the parents are also happy to give them the choice, because girls are able to be independent financially. That can be the biggest boost for a woman.
Talking about WPL, we just saw the auctions, and a few of them were getting sold for like 3 crores and more,
Yeah.
1.9 crores. Things were like this were happening. It's changing the game right now.
Mhm.
If you remember the first pay when you made a debut, what was it like in 1999?
I think there was no pay at all, not a penny in it.
When you made a debut for the one day international?
No, there was. I think we got paid only in 2005 when we came back from that World Cup as a runners up, and that was like 1,000 rupees per match. That
Really?
was a pay in 2005. Yeah.
So since then, while
Yeah.
you were representing the country, what was it? There was no kind of a remuneration from the board, of the Women's Cricket Board, as they called then back then?
Well, there's no remuneration, but yes, the food and everything was
That was
looked
right.
after.
That's right.
But yes, there was no payment. There was no match fees. Yeah.
So there was just complete dedication for the
Yes,
game.
and then girls, if like me, would empty my dad's pocket,
Yeah.
would take money from him to look after ourselves on tour. But I think yeah, there was absolutely nothing in women's cricket
So
back
in
then.
that times, how was it with the other girls around? How was it with the other players around? Because a few of them also came from very humble backgrounds.
Yes, yes.
Am I
I
right?
think it was, but that's why I say that, despite all my own challenges, my
Yeah,
own journey
yeah,
had its own challenges,
yeah.
but I was still better off than most of the girls who come from, not so great family backgrounds or the poor family, because I know there are some of them back home would not get even 3 meals. They would not know, but still they were so talented. They get picked, and when we didn't have much money, and they would struggle for equipment, like say if you're a batter, if you're a bowler and you don't have pads or leg guards, then it was like more of sharing. We would share our kit bags, and there were times when we'd exchange bats when we were crossing, a batter getting out and the next batter walking in, which we exchange bats, because
Okay.
on tour we wouldn't get excess luggage, so we are all trying to share our kit bags.
There was a support system within the team.
Yeah, I mean, the camaraderie was very different, because we would share rooms, unlike now where everybody get individual room, they get this space. But those days we would have roommates. But then that is also fun, because you
Sure.
get to have a lot of interaction, fun,
There's a bond.
know your own teammate from her background, her stuff, and her stories. And that also develops that trust, and as you rightly said, the bond. So the unit, the team is far more strong when you spend like literally 24 hours on a tour with your teammate.
That's right.
And in a way you can also help them if they're in need of something.
Right.
Sometimes when players, as you rightly said, from poor background, they may not even have money to afford a meal on tour. If you're traveling to England or Australia, then that you can share your meal. So these are things that we at that time you always find ways to
Navigate yourself.
yeah, with whatever resources you have. Yeah.
That's right. Men and women, they're different people. So I mean, women have their own problems.
Yep.
They have their own things to share about their being, with the medical terminologies or families or socials or something of that sort. How was it back in the dressing room? You said that you have a very strong bond then back then, but how was it sharing the problems, the medical problems or some social problems? or about the pressure of getting married and leaving cricket, who is playing at the one day internationals? Tell us something about them.
Um, there were few who would probably would share the fact that, on tour, like, okay, now I think this would be my last series. My parents are searching for a guy for me, and I might not continue to play. Or there are some who would say that, they don't get the sort of encouragement from the in-laws. So, at some point they have to let it go. I remember a close friend of mine. She's from Bangalore, and she said, like, I just have 2 years, Mithali, and if I make it to India, if I play for India, my parents would push the age of me getting married,
Yeah.
but they gave me 2 years. It's the time that they've given me. So whatever I have to make of my career in cricket is this 2 years.
Okay.
So the sort of pressure they were on, that you either make it to Indian team or you quit. But not
That's the
everybody
pressure.
get to play for India, do they? I mean, in say 200 girls, there are only 15 girls who play for India.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the rest of them not good enough, or they should not have a choice to, continue to play the sport.
That's right.
So I just feel bad. I mean, we are as teammates, as players. Sometimes you feel very helpless. How do you help your friends when they're in this situation where you know that you're a little better off because you have the support of your parents, but most of the girls don't in those years. And for us, luckily, only one institution which gave jobs was Indian Railways. So the best would get picked by Railways, and the rest would actually have to find jobs to sustain. And that would be a big thing, is because even those people who offer them jobs would not give them the leave to go and play different tournaments. There is a specific duration of leave for any organization. So unless you're picked on sports quota where you get to continue to play, you get about 20 days leave. The rest, then you'll have to go loss of pay.
Right.
So then when there is no money out of the sport and you get a job, and where you have to go again loss of pay, you would rather continue working.
That's right.
And so then what happens? Cricket becomes secondary. So it's from career option, it becomes to something like a hobby. And then
correct.
slowly it just fizzles
Fades
away.
away.
Yeah.
Okay. How is it when you have a male support staff, a male coach? Do you Is it awkward? Is it all smooth when the women cricketers go through periods or have some other problems? Is it easy to communicate, or do you navigate through the senior members? How is it in the team?
I think even that has gone through a change, I would say.
Now.
Now, when early 90s or early 2000, I think it was a bit of a
Taboo.
Yeah, and also a subject that you would not want to openly discuss.
Right.
And if you want to convey, you go through your female support staff, your physio, or you just say, like, today I can skip. I'm not in the 100% fit,
Right.
or something like that, so that the male coach gets, without saying subtly,
Some message.
okay, the player is not in great shape. I think over the years that definitely has changed. Now, there is an open dialogue. You can say that, you're going through a monthly cycle and you need a couple of days, or you want to take a session off. And it is not looked down upon as like, okay, she wants to take off. But, okay, this is something every woman has to go through. A woman athlete, a little more difficult. So she needs a session off. So it is quite open.
Accepted. Okay.
Yeah.
And can be talked about. Has it ever been like you or anyone would have been in such a position that you couldn't have been like 100% fit and still were asked to play, or was an important game?
I think yes. I did face one of those experience in the World Cup in 2009, where for the first time my entire career I felt I wasn't in the position to take the field, and I made it pretty clear just before the game started to the coach that I would like to sit out this game. But you know, she said, like, it's okay even if you could just push your batting order lower, but we still want you in the team. I said, but I have to manage the fielding side. What if if we lose the toss and we had to field 50 overs? I'm not in position to do it.
True.
So she's like, she was trying her very best, and she knows that when I have said something like that, means to say the pain barrier is like the roof, because usually athletes have a very good the threshold of playing with pain,
Right.
with a little bit of injuries. We are never 100% fit and don't have niggles on. We are always having something or other, and we try to manage and be our best. And then I think the captain still had my name in, and she went for the toss. Luckily, we won, and we were to bat, and I was to pad it up for about number 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine we were playing against Sri Lanka, and I thought my batting would not come. I get some time to, get better.
Mm.
But eventually, my batting did come, and I think I scored about 60 odd runs. I had to
Okay.
run between the wickets,
Okay.
and then I fielded for about 10 overs, and I came back. But I think when it is the game, especially World Cup, you try and in some way the physio, the coaches give you that support, the mental support,
Mhm.
the emotional support. But I think it sometimes get very difficult for athletes to be their best. Everybody's body is different,
Different,
and
absolutely.
also when what can occur, you don't know.
True.
So that was one of my experience. But I do know there are few players who have it really bad. We just hope that it is just during training sessions and
Right.
not the games. Yeah.
Talking about the current situation in women's cricket, how is it when you compare to the other nations? Like Australia is
Mm.
accelerating, they're performing very well. England, South Africa. Where do you see India? Right now, it is the ICC Women's Championship that is going on,
Yeah.
and we are placed third on the table.
Mhm.
And we are going to host the World Cup this year as well.
Yes. Yep.
India is going to host it. So, and it was not so good the last T20 World Cup that we
Mm.
had
Yes.
for Team India, if we talk about. But so, how has the game changed, and how do you see the talent in India and with as compared to the world?
I think the game changed, say, from 200 to 30, because if we talk about the 2022 ODI World Cup, and since then the targets the teams are posting is about 260, 270, and sometimes 300.
Right.
So definitely there has been improvement in that aspect. Um, every team has, the bench strength is good. Like India, 2 seasons into Women's Premier League, we have seen numerous players being given opportunity, whether in T20 or one day.
Right.
Australia definitely has a head start because the WBBL, the league started much before any other league in the world for women. So they have good set of structure when it comes to the youngsters being given and groomed slowly into the main roles.
Mm.
And they are a team which is filled with all rounders.
Mm.
And I think next is England.
Mm.
They also, I think both Australia and England also merged with their men's, like the men's board much earlier than BCCI happened to women's.
Okay.
Having said that, I think the last few years, especially under our former secretary BCCI Jayshah sir, I think he's brought in a lot of changes in women's cricket.
Right.
With
Especially the pay equality.
the pay equality. That is a huge thing. I think
Yeah.
big
credit to them.
every other organization would have taken a bit of inspiration from that to
Right.
have pay equality there.
Right.
To start Women's Premier League, because the talks were on much before COVID happened, like way back in 2016. I remember a couple of journalists asking me, but he is the one who started the Women's Premier League. So I think when you start having these developments in women's cricket, you're showing the world that it is a sport, it is viable, it's a product that can only grow.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of investment you can do in this. So it sort of helps the sport and the players.
Right.
Yeah, and then what happens is with the under 19 World Cup now, it's I think the second edition of the under 19 World Cup. You're giving opportunity for the age group girls. You know that okay, not as I said, not everyone makes it to the senior level Indian team, but you still have an opportunity at the age group to represent your country. I think that sets a very good domestic structure because if for examples like Yuvraj Singh, Mohammad Kaif, all of them are products of under 19 World Cup. Shubman Gill, everybody. So we'll also in about 3-4 years, if you give it a little more time, you will see the same sort of players then making it to the senior side.
Talent coming into the senior side.
Yeah.
Talking about the WPL right now, also like we've got 5 teams. We'll be coming into the 3rd edition of it this year. We've got 5 teams, out of which Shruti Mandhana and Harmanpreet Kaur are leading one.
Yes.
And the rest 3 are from the Australian side. That's why you said that they have a kind of an edge because they started playing WBBL and other things ahead. Right now, if you see, how do you see the talent in India coming up? Well, from the junior cricket, from the current team?
I think from junior cricket, it has definitely improved like miles, I would say, because I think yesterday only someone has scored about 300 in an under 19.
Jadhav.
Yeah.
So Mumbai and
Mumbai
versus
player.
Meghalaya.
Yes.
And she scored 346, unbeaten 346.
Yes.
So
I mean, I've never imagined like an under 19 girl getting 300 plus.
Right.
Because for that age group, the tournaments are anywhere less and the matches are less. But still, if you see with the under 16 coming in and under 19, there's under 23. So you have this slowly the step by step stuff for the players, like slowly you climb the ladder. So someone who scores 300 in an under 19, you can imagine her endurance, her temperament. So you identify her as a potential for the next 3-4 years. And what if that player for the next edition of Women's Premier League gets picked by a franchisee and gets the exposure of being among the top athletes of the world and understanding, what else could be required to upgrade her skill, and at the same time what do the elite athletes do, how do they train, so she gets that exposure. That really helps for budding players. That's what Women's Premier League does. Yes, I would be very happy if we have more Indian players leading the franchisees because it's Indian League. And right now we have only 2 players, that is Harmanpreet and Smriti, and the rest are overseas. But maybe in the coming years you might see a shift in that, and that will also help us to have future leaders.
So for that, do you see cricketers coming in from only the metros and the big towns, or also from the rural areas? Do you see the budding cricketers, the women cricketers coming in from rural? Also, they are getting encouraged to play cricket?
I think yes. We still need to have.
Or it's in a raw stage?
The facilities in the rural areas. I know for a fact that only the cities, the two tier cities do have the facilities.
Right.
A lot of these girls who feel that they are in need of facility, they have to then sort of migrate to the cities in search of the academies where they can train. But if we could get more facilities into rural areas, it helps greatly for the girls from there. They don't have to then uproot themselves and come to the cities, but at home they can build on developing themselves as players. And we've also seen this year in the auction, I think some of the domestic players have really gone high. I mean, 1.5 plus CR. And
the girl who was being taken by Gujarat,
Sheikh. Yeah. I'm told that, she comes from Dharvi,
Mumbai. Very humble.
Yeah, that place. And just imagine for her getting picked. Of course, she was picked by UP Warriors in the first season, but didn't really have a good season, I believe. So now again picked by GG for about
1.9.
Yeah. I mean, she wouldn't even have dreamt of it. But that is for the people who are living
The
in her
talent.
area,
Mm.
it's a proud moment.
Absolutely.
And for her own sake as well, because someone who's worked hard, she had a very good domestic season,
Right.
and she's being rewarded for it. So these are the stories you'll get to hear a lot more in these leagues, just like what stories you heard in the men's IPL when it just started
It
for the
just
first three,
started.
4 years.
True.
I'm sure you will get a lot more such inspirational stories. We have one girl, Charani from Andhra as well. Andhra is still developing a state association when it comes to women's cricket, but you have another girl this season being picked by DC. So, when these girls do well in domestic,
Right.
and they feel that, okay, they still cannot make it to the Indian team,
Right.
but they have the franchise league where
Yeah.
still they get an opportunity, a platform to show their talent, their skill, and for selectors, another go at
Right.
a larger pool of players.
And while we're talking, we just saw a tweet by Sachin Tendulkar where he just he shared a video of a girl called Sushila Meena,
Yeah,
and she was bowling
bowling a
barefoot,
left arm pacer.
and
Yeah,
she was bowling like a Zahir Khan. Her action was
her
like Zahir
action.
Khan,
Yeah, yeah,
and all of a sudden, a lot of things came into action for her, I believe. So things
yeah.
like this can also be into action. And plus, when you said the rural infrastructure
Yeah,
should be
yeah.
more developed, that's what you think.
I think if we get to have more this district games where the state association picks players from, because if you see that video also, she's very raw.
Very wrong.
But if you want to train her, and if you see that if you want to polish her skill, which she has a very natural ability to bowl, the natural action of Zahir Khan, uh, you need to give her the platform, you need to guide her. She needs to come into an academy where she will be coached by coaches. So for that to happen, if she is from that rural area, she has to move to a closer city. But if we give her that facility at her place, I think she doesn't have to move anywhere else. Her parents will have enough confidence that the girl is at home
At home.
and training, because that's the outlook of people who are staying in villages. Like they don't want the girl to move out.
Right.
They still have that thing. So if you could give them the facilities in those districts, you will see a lot more girls. Right
Okay.
now, we are only seeing the city girls,
City girls, yeah.
and they are getting into the state teams. But if these girls are given that platform, I think the number of girls taking up will be, manifold.
What is it with the ace players and the coaches, be it men's or the women's cricket? What do you have to say about it? There was something also, an incident which happened with you in 2018. With the senior players and coaches. Is there some kind of a, it's not tussle, but what, if I may so, difference of opinion which leads to some kind of a different result?
Well, see, I would say every situation is different, and not like you know the senior player and the coaches usually have disagreements, and which sort of is the same everywhere around the world. If there are any sort of friction, there are very different scenarios to it. But I believe that when you've played cricket with certain bunch of players, and one of them turn out to be a coach, because you've played with them, so you have a different rapport. If the coach is quite older to you, like in terms of the era they have played, so there is a natural, the reverence is very different. But if say someone I've played with comes into coaching, I might look at her as, okay, I've played with you, so that equation is different to someone I've not played with, but I maintain a distance because I've not played with it, but I still interact. So yes, there are very different scenarios. Having said that, what actually transpires is very different to what is out in the media, or what
Really?
is what people uh, read about it, because not everything is disclosed.
Right.
And what comes out also sometimes is spin in a way that it is made interesting for people to read articles.
Really.
But I think that where there are too many heads, like in a team sport, there are just not 15 members player. The support staff numbers are also have increased over the years. Earlier, our time it was just manager and coach. Sometimes the coach is doing the manager's job.
Okay.
Okay, but now you have a manager, you have a coach, you have an assistant coach, you have a bowling coach, you have a batting
Physio,
coach, you are
video
two
analyst.
physios, two SNCs, masseur and video analyst. So your support staff itself is like a team.
Right.
So when you have so many people and with experts in the team as well, the role that they are brought in, there are bound to be disagreements. There are bound to be difference of opinion as well. But how do you, pick the best out of it, and eventually what the team is requirement is only that bunch of people would know what actually happened in the room.
Right.
Yes, I mean, as an outsiders, all of us are very interested to know what happens in the dressing room and
Right.
what conspires and all that.
Yeah.
But it's just like what happens in a family.
Absolutely.
We all have fights,
Yeah.
and still at the end of the day, we all come together because we are a family. So similarly, I think cricket is also a team sport. We might have dislikes, yet we have to forge a partnership on the ground. We have to
Right.
run between the wickets. If
Right.
I don't trust her, I mean, we will find difficult to get our game out.
Okay.
So we are all professional. They are all at that level. We are all professionals. We understand the demands of the sport.
Okay.
So I think, like, studying too much into a scenario and making it a similar one, or I don't think that would be a wise one.
A wise one. Yeah. How do you see the talent right now? If you could name a few promising cricketers from the current team or from that you've been looking into.
Well, the current series which is happening, if I have to say, Pratika Rawal definitely is one such talent. She's been consistent with the opportunities that she got. She's relatively new in international cricket. You have Priya Mishra, the leg spinner.
Leg spinner.
She also can really be groomed well
Mhm.
because India's had some very good leg spinners, but in the recent past, we really didn't have quality leg spinners, and she's a quality spinner.
Right.
Anyway, we definitely need to look into our fast bowling
Pacers.
department. But
Right.
I'm quite impressed with one fast bowler youngster. She's in the under 19 Indian team, Shabnam Shakil. She's tall. She's quite good built. She's played last season of Women's Premier League for Gujarat Giants. I think maybe in another year or so should we see her getting into the senior side.
Oh, okay. And what happened with you and Gujarat Giants? You were mentoring it, and now you've not decided to step away.
Yes, I think I had good experience of 2 seasons.
2 seasons.
And I think I've got a new assignment with Andhra Cricket Association,
Okay.
and the assignment is quite demanding, if I may say, because it does from the age group level that we spoke about, from the grassroots level. So right from the under 15 to 16, 19, 23, setting up academies in the rural areas.
Wonderful.
So it's like, I'm working right from zero level. So it's a very different experience.
Okay.
Whereas franchise league is very different. You're only dealing with the elite people.
That's right.
This gives me a very different experience, which I feel is important for me also, because all these years I pretty much concentrated on senior level because that's what I've played. But now coming to the young lot,
Grassroots
yeah, I have the opportunity to set up a very strong culture in Andhra as well, and see that a lot more girls in the coming years play a good level of cricket.
Right. You talked about cricket. You're talking about the grassroots level cricket. Even there's a lot of cricket this year and for the next 3 years, as we see the calendar of the Indian women's cricket.
Yeah.
But one thing I would like to ask you is about the test matches.
Mm-hmm.
There are only 4 test matches in the next 5 years.
Well, there are 4 test matches. Our time we would play a test in 8 years gap. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Because that's what in your 22-year
Yeah.
long span you've played 8 test matches.
yeah. Even if you consider one test a year, it should have been 23 tests, whereas I've probably played about 12 or 13.
What do you think is lacking there?
I think it's just the timing, because when I walked into the Indian team, we were just women's cricket was moving from test to one days, and then in say from 2015-16, women's cricket is moving from one days to T20s, and with the franchise leagues, everybody is playing a lot more of T20 around the year than the ODI format. But yes, you still need to have at least two formats. Test matches, again, it's been revived by BCCI.
Right.
To I remember 2022, I think 21 or 22, we played a first ping ball test in Australia. So Australia and England have the culture of playing a test match because they play the Ashes series. But India, um, we don't have a series like that. So whenever a touring team comes, we offer them a chance to play a 4-day test. Um, I believe that playing one test in a series actually doesn't help the players,
Right.
because they really have to change their mindset, and things like how to play from T20 to 1 day to a test. Usually, what happens in the span of 2-3 days, once you finish a format, you have to jump into a 4-day test. And when you don't have days game in the domestic, it gets very difficult for the current lot to understand a day's format.
Okay.
So yes, I mean it's a very good intent to try to revive it, but if that can be consistently done, then it works better. To I think South Africa is playing a test against England, but not the other countries. They don't really, because one is that even the association should be good enough to host another 4 or 5 days of cricket, and they also need to have the culture in their own domestic setup to have a days game. Like, say for example, Sri Lanka has never, probably doesn't have a days game in their domestic structure. So you tell the national side to play 4-day test, they will be at sea. They don't know how to play.
Right.
So it should be a conscious effort from all the boards to at least try and have a test match in the series. Yeah.
We have test matches against England and Australia and South Africa.
Yes.
I believe in the next few years. That's right. And if I talk about yourself, you're a commentator now. Future for yourself, how are you looking into it? Like, you're, of course, you said that you were with the Andhra Cricket.
Yes.
But is it that you would like to get into administration or probably later into politics? What is it?
Well, I'm very keen to get into administration, and that's why I'm sort of dabbling into this role as well. It sort of gives me more knowledge, because when you're a player, you're only focusing on yourself. If you're a captain, you're focusing on your team and how you want the calendar to turn out to be, and different series, and it's a very different setup when you're a player. But when you quit playing or when you retire, it's a very natural progression to get into coaching or into broadcasting. So coaching is something right now I'm not very keen to get into.
Okay.
Because I want to go through the transition of from a player to a coach. So in the meantime, I thought I would get into broadcasting, just get the experience of what it is to do a live match, and also administration, because I've seen I've seen the transition in women's cricket, what it has been and where it is, and I can get my experience to the fore in terms of administration, and I feel I could be best in that role. Yeah.
Wonderful. Before we sign off, something that you can tell the parents, the upcoming sportsmen, sportswomen, the cricketers, women cricketers, something that you can talk to or give a message or something.
Well, first I should appreciate and acknowledge that Saurashtra Cricket Association has done a great job in hosting this 3 ODI series, ODI games, a bilateral series, India versus Ireland. It gave opportunity for young girls. While I was doing commentary, there were few images of school girls turning up for the games, the first ODI, and the second, which was on Sunday. I've seen families turn up with young girls. So it was very heartening that you're giving an opportunity for girls to dream big, dream different, and at the same time showing parents that look, women's cricket is also a profession, a career that can be an option for your girls.
Right.
And giving the Indian team the best of the stadium. I've played few domestic games there, never an international. I wish I did.
Right.
But I think it's a very it's one of the best wickets in our country.
Right.
And that's the reason you've seen 300 plus from India. So I would love that Saurashtra Cricket Association continues to sort of promote and you know motivate women cricket and women's cricket in your state.
Right.
And my message to young girls or budding cricketers, that give yourself time. Don't go running behind the spotlight at earlier, because everything has a journey. So I think just initially it's very important to work very hard. And for the parents, um, don't put too much pressure of performance. As long as the kid enjoys doing what they are doing, I think that in itself will give you rewards.
Thank you so much for talking to us,
Thank
Mithali
you.
Raj. And all the best for your journey ahead in whatever you do, your administration that you would like to pursue in coming times. Thank you so much.
Thank you.